It's time for Twig This Week in Google. Jeff and Gina are here. We're going to talk about Prism, the government move to spy on everything we do. How much is Google involved in that? Some new Google apps for your Android phone and a whole lot more. It's all coming up next on Twig.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twig.
Bandwidth for This Week in Google is provided by Cachefly. CACHEFLY.com. This is Twig, This Week in Google, episode 202, recorded June 12th, 2013, the well-paid internship. This Week in Google is brought to you by LegalZoom.com. LegalZoom's not a law firm, but provides self-help services at your direction, like affordable business and personal documents you can trust. Visit LegalZoom.com and use the offer code TWIG to get $10 off at checkout. And by 99 Designs, the world's largest online graphic design marketplace. 99 Designs connects businesses seeking quality, affordable designs with a community of 200,000 plus graphic designers. Visit 99designs.com/twig to receive a free design consultation. And by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform that makes it fast and easy to create a professional website, blog, portfolio, or online store. For a free trial and 10% off your first purchase on new accounts, go to squarespace.com. Use the offer code TWIG6. It's time for Twig This Week in Google, the show that covers Google, the cloud, everything that's going on. Really anything we want to. Gina, before the show, said, can we talk about it? And I said, anything you want. Gina Trapani is here, mother of Edda, and Think Up, and To Do Text.
And dragons.
And dragons. She's a mother of dragons. Daenerys Trapanian.
Love Daenerys. of House Trapani.
Of House
Hello,
Trapani.
good to be here.
Are you a pretender to the throne?
I feel like a lot has happened since the last time we talked. We had
the Red Wedding.
Prism, the Red Wedding, the WWDC, all kinds of stuff happened. It's crazy.
So Gina was wondering if we could talk about WWDC. Certainly. Absolutely. Let me introduce the other guy, Mr. Jeffrey Jarvis, professor of journalism at the City University of New York, the author of What Would Google Do in Public Parts, and Gutenberg the Geek on Amazon.com. And this is the core group, and I love this group. Just the three of us talking about whatever the hell we damn want to talk about.
Two old guys and a young whippersnapper talking about the world.
That's it. That's it. Gina balances our curmudgeonness.
I don't know. I don't know. I could be pretty curmudgeon.
That's a pretty heavy load there, Theo.
That is a lot.
It's a tough job. Somebody's got to do it.
Joffrey Jarvis, we're going to call him.
With your heads.
Kid.
I hate him.
I hate that kid.
How could they not kill him by now? I just thought he was going to get it. I feel that he will at some point get it, but we'll have to wait till next season. We're talking about Game of Thrones, which wrapped up its season on Sunday. And no, we won't give you any spoilers.
Proof we can talk about anything on this show.
Is it a spoiler to say somebody's not going to get killed? I think it is in this show. I think it is in this show because everybody, well, never mind. Yeah, Waze, $1 billion plus. It's an Israeli company. According to the rumor mill, which I think seems fairly accurate now, Apple approached them early this year. Would have been a good purchase for Apple. They could have used the technology, which is essentially a crowdsourced
they could have
traffic.
used maps that were right.
Accurate maps because they're crowdsourced, and then great turn by turn, but most importantly, crowdsourced traffic and road conditions and that kind of thing. They offered, according to the rumor mill, $500 million, which Waze mocked. Ha 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 ha. Ha ha. Facebook came at him offering considerably more, but as with all other Facebook acquisitions, said you'll have to move to Silicon Valley. Ha 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 ha. Then Google came and said you can retain your autonomy, stay in Israel, and we will give you more than $1 billion. And finally, the deal was done. Waze is now Google Waze.
I love Waze. I have learned. I'm late to it. But it is the most remarkable thing I have learned lately that I do anything Waze tells me to do.
Oh, yeah, you trust Waze.
I've been through terrible traffic jams, and I said, turn there? No, you're kidding.
Yeah.
And if I ever not listen to Waze, I'm in trouble. If I listen to Waze, I've found all kinds of new
Oh,
routes.
I love it.
I've been driving the same route for 20 years.
Yeah.
Just 2 days ago, I found an entirely new route to work, and it saved me forever. Waze is remarkable.
Never the prettiest maps, but nevertheless, here it is. Nevertheless, effective. It's really a GPS device. Navigate gas. There's some gaming you can have. If you help people with reports, you can get a better icon. You can change your mood.
The top 500 users get direct access to Waze employees.
Ooh, that's nice. You could be a sunflower, a zombie, a cat, a dog, a male or a female, LOL. I love these. And there's some stuff, if you're a map editor, you get to be T-Rex, 8-bit robot. So you see the other Wazers on the street. Even there's a scoreboard. So this is how they gamify the idea of helping people out, right?
Yeah, I don't get that part so much. But, the real value is that because you're carrying it with you, Waze knows what road you're on and how fast you're going,
Right.
and thus gets the data together. I don't know if I've mentioned this before. I wrote a business plan more than a dozen years ago, arguing that our radio reports on traffic are all god-awful. They
Horrible.
know nothing.
Nothing.
And I had the idea that you could, this was before smartphones, right? So you could call in on your basic route that you had already registered and say how long it took you, and you get value back.
Well, imagine this in Google Now, right? This is Google Now does a little of this already. It knows where you typically go. So it'll tell me, oh, it's the usual time you drive up to school. Here's what it's going to take, and there's what the traffic is. These are the reports, so I can show you, these are people who, these are Wazers who wave their hand across the phone or tap it with 3 fingers and then dictate things like moderate traffic. Some of this is from the average speed is just automatically collected, but here's north of here, 7 miles away, there's a police officer hidden. Some of them are visible, some of them are invisible. Heavy traffic. Complete standstill, vehicle stopped on shoulder. These are very valuable. Pothole on road. Sometimes there'll be road debris or roadkill, and it'll let you know. And I think that's all very handy and has actually saved me. And then, of course, because it knows where traffic is stopped, it will reroute you very effectively.
Now, here's my question, though, Leo. Now that it's going to go into Google, and let's assume that the usage of it just explodes, then does every person using Waze go to the same alternate route, and the alternate route becomes worse than the route that you're trying to avoid?
It is better to not share, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
I didn't think of that.
I never really used Waze because Android's navigation was always so great. But do you think that it got as many users as it got because Apple, for so long, didn't have no navigation? Do you feel like it was like the nav app for Apple for iPhone, before Apple launched there?
Yeah, 50 million users, they claim, and it was the #1 mapping app after the Apple Map fiasco. So for sure it gained some users then, but it was already quite successful.
It was already a cult hit.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I started using it long before then. I'm look forward to it being integrated into Google. So
I do too.
I agree that they should retain autonomy as a company and so forth and so on, and maybe even a standalone app. I think some people would prefer that. But why not get that data into Google Maps and Google Navigation? That would be really fabulous.
Both better maps and your user data that Google now will know where you go shopping all the time. It'll know all your routes that you take.
Apple announced, at the WWDC that many car companies were going to start incorporating Siri and Apple Maps into the car so that Apple Maps would actually show up on the screen. And I just don't know if that's such a good idea.
Do not want.
Do not want. My next car, which is an Audi, has Google, for a fee, by the way, Google Earth. The fee is because you have to have connectivity in its maps.
Oh, right.
And actually, one of our interns' dad has it, and he says, don't get it. It's very distracting because it's so pretty. You go, ooh, look where I am. Ah! So, but if you could incorporate Waze into an in-car system,
yeah, killer.
Yeah, so right
not-
now you have to have the app running on your phone in order to know, oh, hey, there's a cop.
which means you really need a dashboard mount, and you need a plug-in and all of that stuff.
Right.
And I don't want a car that's going to be amplified. I want an Android car. And if a brand goes only to Apple, honest to God, that's a reason for me not to buy it now because I
kind of agree.
Invested in Android.
Somebody says in our chat room, and I don't know if this is
no choice. She because she's all about Android.
She has to have
she's
an
the
Android
queen
car.
of Android.
Right, no, it's true.
She can't buy an Apple car.
Somebody said the 2014 Jeep Grand Cherokee has Waze. I don't know if that's the case. That's somebody in our
Too
chat
bad
room.
it's not a better car.
Yeah. I think
so
you're
doesn't
right. I don't
mean-
want Apple Maps. Please.
Yeah.
I beg of you. So I'd love to see, and Google did not mention anything at Google I/O. I would have loved to have seen Google say, well, you got Ferrari, but we got Lamborghini. You got Chevrolet, but we've got Ford. Actually, Ford is the one standout. They're using Microsoft's voice recognition and nuance. So, Apple doesn't even own its voice recognition. Google is the only company I know of that owns its voice recognition. Apple's using nuance.
So this is about a data source for you guys. think
Well,
that the
there
Waze
was
application
the
about a
theory
data source?
was, and I forgot who said this. Maybe it was Renee Ritchie on MacBreak Weekly, that perhaps Google, turn by turn might have been a service that Google was licensing. We don't know. Maybe they got it from Telenav or Navtech, and perhaps that contract was up, and Google said, "Boy, we'd like to have our own turn by turn." Perhaps that was the reason for the acquisition.
That makes sense.
Doesn't that kind of make sense? I don't know.
I think
Yes.
that's part of it. It's data sources, I think, Gina. Right? 1 is the maps, 2 is the turn by turn, 3 is the consumer data. Where do you go every day?
It was John C. Dvorak said that. Credit to John for that.
And then he got all paranoid about how Google was going to misuse this and use it to spy on all of us.
Oh, my God. Now, let me, okay. We did a great, and I highly recommend this, Steve Gibson's Security Now today, which will be available at twit.tv/SN and on iTunes probably in a few hours. We'll have a text transcription tomorrow, and I would actually send that to your member of Congress. Steve has put together all the pieces of Prism and thinks he has figured out what exactly is going on. And I have to say his scenario fits perfectly with all the data points we have. It's conjecture because, for one thing,
We
the
don't
Patriot
know.
Act and NSL, National Security Letters, prevent people from saying what's going on.
Actually, Steve's being arrested as we speak, but that's all right.
Well, and Steve's basing this on the known leak, the known whistleblower from the NSA and AT&T 7 years ago, and how they were doing it. And what he's done is he's extrapolated that into the present. What would happen 6 years later? What would the NSA be doing? And it does fit all the data, every single data point we have. And the only reason people haven't...
Show, Leo,
Pardon me?
was the greatest part of the show to me was at the end when Steve, of all people, said, well, if the NSA asked me to design this is what I'd do.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a little bit technical, so it's the kind of thing that you're probably not going to see mainstream media explain.
Oh, God, no. They'll screw it up.
Yeah. So the gist of this is, no, the NSA doesn't, in fact, need to have access to Google's servers, which Google, Facebook, and everybody else have said, no, they don't have access to our servers. They tap in upstream. In fact, they tap in right at the point where Google would connect to the internet backbone, where they would get their internet service. You don't even need to let Google know you're doing that. You could do it with NSLs and this is what AT&T was giving the NSA. AT&T in 2006, a whistleblower revealed, had a secret room in its headquarters in San Francisco where all WorldNet, which was AT&T's internet service, traffic was being collected by the NSA. Just split it off. And the reason he says it's called Prism is because this is fiber optic cable, which they have split, just as a prism splits light, into a room where we collect it all. And his thesis, and I think it's probably accurate, although we may never know because nobody's telling the truth in this, or at least nobody's revealing what they know in this, is that they're basically collecting everything, storing it, and then if a time comes they want to know, well, what was bad guy A up to last year? They've got all the data. That's why they're building a giant 7
I don't have that
zettabyte
slide
collection
handy.
facility.
But the slide had 2 parts, right? Prism was the lower part of that slide, but the upper part of the slide talked about tapping straight into communications.
Right.
And so they were a separate thing.
But yes, and what Prism is and he also explained why you would want to do it right at the juncture of Google and the public internet, because you can then say we know this came through Google, and then you can subpoena or NSL Google and say, who was that? So they need to know where it came from. They could, I said, well, why don't you just tap it upstream? Get the backbones. That's all you need, because you can't tell where it came from. So if you can say, hey, this was Google, we can subpoena Google. This was Facebook, no problem. We know how to get that information out of Facebook and then put the puzzle together.
And he theorizes this because in that previous testimony, as I understand it, Leo, right, that there was a secret room built at a Folsom Street facility,
Right.
where you knew where it was going next, and thus that's where the theory comes from.
Exactly. It's more, yeah. I mean, that's known. That was exactly what the NSA was doing with AT&T, the AT&T whistleblower. That's fairly well exposed. So it made perfect sense.
Wait, okay, dumb question. Sorry. So this means that they're capturing the bits going out of all of Google's data centers across the world. They've
Well,
split
not across
off.
the world, in the U.S. probably.
All right. So all of Google's data centers, even in the U.S., they're splitting off. So they're getting the bits coming out of. They're getting the raw bits coming out of
That's right.
Google servers, and they're collecting all of them, and they're able to assemble them into something coherent enough to target individuals. I mean, of course, that's possible. I just don't have that much faith in our government.
Task.
Well, it's big data, right? And we're getting
Yeah.
better and better at that. I think that in 2006, that
it's the
they
stream
were
of
looking
bits.
for specific things. They weren't collecting everything. But we know that the NSA is building a giant 1.5 million square foot facility in Utah with storage capacity of 7 zettabytes.
But just the job of reassembling those bits into something
Gina,
that's
here's my theory,
usable.
though. Here's my theory. And this goes back to the
Well, the
New York
bits are
Times.
assembled. Don't think. I mean, there's an email. There's there's a conversation. It's not like they're
Right.
completely random. They're assembled.
They're assembled in that they're linear, right? There's some.
So if you could search it for, you can do a search for an IP address. You could do a search. I think we know
For
how to do
word,
this. Yeah,
for
I think we
sequence.
know how to do this. I think this data, this is just big data.
Plus, I think, Gina, what also is happening is that,
Yeah.
and this is the reason that they have the previously warrantless wiretapping, I think, just guessing too, and also the Verizon data, is they're looking for anomalies to patterns.
Yes,
We're the
exactly.
pattern.
Exactly.
We normal people are the pattern. They want to see anomalies where things are happening oddly. And you're right, Leo. It could go to an odd address. It could go to a word or a sequence of words they're looking for, and then they can back up to track that down. Right? They're not trying to reassemble the entire internet conversation.
They don't need
every
to,
minute.
but they want to
They don't
save
need- they
it.
can't.
They want to save it so that they could go back.
They're grepping the stream. They're
They're
capturing
grepping
the stream.
in the most primitive way. They're grepping it, but I think they're doing more. For instance, your bank will let you know if suspicious activity is going on in your credit card, right? Well, in order for that to happen, there is a third-party service provider, very big third-party service provider that gets all the transactions and looks for anomalies, looks for certain patterns. That's a lot of data. Data, by the way, which I'm sure is also being collected by the NSA. And they can see in that stream, they can see anomalies and patterns. That's just, that's just big iron.
Yeah. Okay.
That's how you get that call that says, hey, we just saw some weird stuff. Did you just buy sneakers and 3 gallons of gas? And that's because they can do pattern recognition in this stuff. And believe me, monitoring all the credit card transactions going on in the U.S., I once knew the number. It's a large number. It's many bytes.
I guess I was thinking that there'd be, that's structured data, where they have triggers and queries constantly running and monitoring, but just getting the stream of bits coming across the wire, right? Like this is comparable to what Google was accidentally capturing with the Street View cars, right? When they were accidentally capturing the data that was going across the wireless networks, right? Which was, we all agreed, was basically just gobbledygook, right?
Like, on, though, Gina.
Well, those were random packets. This is not random
packet.
packets. This is the whole
right.
thing.
This is the whole thing. They're capturing the whole thing.
They got the whole thing. And now no one knows what they're doing with it, but I think Steve's supposition is probably accurate, that they're just collecting it. They may do some data analysis on it. But the other reason that they want to just have it is so that at a later date, should they begin an investigation, they can pull in the threads.
But I saw one reference, Leo, to somebody doing a calculation of what it would take to store all that, and the cost of that is pretty tremendous.
Well, IBM has a page called Big Data, in which they say we create 2.5 quintillion bytes of data a day. 2.5 quintillion bytes of data a
There
day.
goes another number of the week.
Was that?
No.
That would be a good one.
Yeah.
90% of the data in the world today has been created in the last 2 years alone, according to IBM. That's everything. That's posts to social media, climate sensors, that's purchase records, GPS signals. And IBM says we can analyze this. 12 terabytes of tweets a day, 350 billion annual meter readings. this is what IBM specializes in. In fact, one of the things I read said that Watson has been repurposed to do exactly this.
Watson has been turned.
Watson which
is
won
now an
Jeopardy,
agent
right?
against us.
Right. Watson has been turned.
But it's the same thing Watson was doing to win Jeopardy. So I don't think any of the. In fact, there really shouldn't be a surprise because there's been this move in this direction.
Well, a quick question, Leo. If I encrypt my queries on a browser, is that of any use to the NSA then?
So while they could be doing a man-in-the-middle attack, that we're not presuming that, and that would be an awfully a lot of work to do for all of these transactions. So encrypted data, SSL data, and so forth is probably okay. But Steve points out all your email is unencrypted, otherwise people wouldn't be able to read it.
Oh, that's true. But isn't this part of the reason that do you think, looking back now, when Google decided, okay, it's time to go ahead and go to HTTPS and encrypt more stuff,
right?
You almost wonder whether they thought, we can't say anything, but folks, you really ought to do this.
Well, there were other reasons, but I think that might be one of the reasons. And, for years I used PGP. I would sign all my email with PGP and encourage people to encrypt the email back to me. I mean, literally for 10 years. My thesis was, look, if everybody, even innocent parties, encrypt email, then encryption itself wouldn't be seen as a sign of guilt, right? So we should all routinely encrypt. Maybe now people will take that more seriously. Glenn Greenwald, when he quoted Edward Snowden, said they can literally watch your ideas form as you type, and that would be the case, not even if without access to Google's servers, as long as they're at the access point to the public internet.
The funny thing too about all is that Snowden wanted to contact Greenwald and wanted to do a key exchange. Greenwald had no idea how to do it. Snowden made a video to. He still didn't do it. It was only when the video maker came to him and said, "Listen, you really ought to pay attention to this." And so somebody made fun of him on Twitter, and he said, "No, I've learned now. I learned my lesson." So.
New York Times. This is from the New York Times. IBM's Watson, the supercomputing technology, the New York Times wrote this, that defeated human Jeopardy champions in 2011 is a prime example of the power of data-intensive artificial intelligence. Watson-style computing, analysts said, is precisely the technology that would make the ambitious data collection program of the NSA seem practical. Computers could instantly sift through the massive internet communications data, see patterns of suspicious online behavior, and thus narrow the hunt for terrorists. Yeah, Both the NSA and the CIA have been testing Watson in the last 2 years, said a consultant who has advised the government and asked not to be identified. I think now we know it's Snowden. So they've actually used Watson directly for this. So does that answer your question, Sheena?
Yeah. Yeah. I realized it was kind of a dumb question.
This is where we've been headed.
Yeah, and it looks like this is what Etta should study in school. It looks like the data's not going to go away.
Well, what do you do? What do you think? Should we all routinely encrypt our emails? And it's easy to do, by the way. It's trivial.
PGP is trivial?
PGP or certificate-based encryption or GNU Privacy Guard, which is the open source.
I think that the providers should do it for us.
I agree. I think Gmail could launch that right now and everybody would turn it on.
Yep.
The problem with that, no, I guess you could do that as long as it was Gmail to Gmail.
I see what you're saying.
If I'm sending to Yahoo Mail from Gmail, unless Yahoo and Gmail make a deal, I mean, I've used Hushmail. Now, the other part of this, of course, is analysis of patterns. And this was, one of the defenses the government, including President Obama, had was, well, we're not listening to your conversations. We're just monitoring who you call and when. And that's another part of this is they maybe don't even need to see it in the email if they can see the patterns of communication. There's a lot there that you can get.
And again, they see it in a couple of ways. Number one, they say, this person is starting to communicate with this person, right? That's the more obvious. But the less obvious is the search for anomalies.
Well, don't you remember in Zero Dark 30 how we caught Osama bin Laden? It was watching how communication went in and out of that compound and finding the courier. They didn't even see what the communications were. They didn't need to. They were able to backtrack from who was talking to whom.
And of course, this argument that Snowden has blown the lid off how it works, Osama bin Laden wasn't trusting email anyway. He was using human couriers.
Human couriers, right. And we still were able to track down. By the way, somebody in our chat room just pointed out, Gina, you wrote an article on Lifehacker in 2006, how to encrypt your email. You knew.
So 2006 ago, I did. I said I did write a post about how to. Actually, did I write this? No, I think. No. I edited this. It's an old article, so it shows me as the author. It was actually Jason Thomas wrote it. You can see his byline at the bottom. I did publish that email. I always sort of aspired to and fantasized about using PGP every day, and I never quite got around to it.
I signed my email from, all my email was signed for two reasons. One, to prove that it was from me because the signature was my key, my public key, but also to give people the opportunity to encrypt email back. And I only received a handful of encrypted emails from people. You have to exchange keys if you want to have an encrypted conversation. That's why Snowden was trying to tell Greenwald, hey, give me your key. You got to do this thing so I can talk to you. And of course, like most people, Glenn Greenwald had no idea what he was talking about. In Microsoft products and Thunderbird and others, you can use a certificate, much like the SSL certificates, even a self-signed certificate. So, and there's Enigmail. There are a lot of good choices out there for doing this. I wonder. The polls show that most Americans say, hey, you have to give up a little privacy to fight terrorism, to keep us safe.
I think that could change based on further revelations and on enough people in Congress getting mad. But Congress is so wacky. I mean, Peter King is saying arrest Glenn Greenwald for nothing illegal.
Right. Nobody can agree on what this is.
No, not at all. It's amazing the split. So when you have Glenn Beck agreeing with liberals, it's a wacky world.
No. Yeah, I saw somebody. I mean, it's just, yeah. And it's also, as I mentioned on Sunday on Twitter, a litmus test for where your politics lie, how you react to this.
Well, it is and it isn't, because again, it's people from left and right can be on either side here. It's, my argument is that the discussion needs to rise up again to the level of principles.
Right.
That the principle that our physical mail is private and can only be opened by government with a warrant should hold with all of our other private communications by any means whatsoever. And that principle isn't there. There should be a principle of government being transparent, except when it needs not to be. And there are, by God, a lot of instances when it needs to be secret. I buy that. But we're not having the discussion at the level of principles, and we're having, a whole bunch of exceptions around rules. And that leads to mistrust, because when you don't know what's going on, you're going to default to mistrust.
Right. Yeah, I don't know what to do with it, but I'm glad that we're starting to understand it and talk about it.
Yes, I'm too.
So I'm curious, Jeff, does Prism make you think twice about living on a Chromebook?
No, and I'll get in trouble for saying this, but this is the Eric Schmidt rule. What am I ashamed of doing? I already am cautious. Everyone I know is cautious.
Can I just point out that J. Edgar Hoover spied on Martin Luther King and collected a fairly large FBI dossier on
I'm not
him?
worth spying on.
Well, I'm just saying that the government can decide who doesn't like.
Yes, and it can do that anyway.
Yeah.
And
you may say, I'm not doing anything wrong. I don't think Martin Luther King was doing anything wrong.
No, but the question is, does the cloud make that necessarily any more different? My behavior
just makes
was
it easier.
Already, I wasn't going to send an email.
Right.
I mean, the rule is very simple. Don't send an email to anyone if you're afraid of it getting passed on to anyone. Period.
Right.
Right.
Well, anything I guess at this point we have to assume anything we do on the internet is public.
I know I'm not willing to go that far, because we have to be careful here. Google might be able. I mean, the government might be getting that traffic by, but they're not recreating the entire internet and seeing everything we do.
And they're not posting it online; they're keeping it to themselves.
And the most important thing, I think, is the worst part of this entire story from our perspective, the technology perspective, was the Washington Post screwing up and presuming that there were direct ties into Google, Facebook, et al. Servers, so the government could make queries whenever they wanted. Simply not true. It took like 2 days of vehement denials from the companies.
Well, but now you understand what the confusion was. It was more an issue of understanding how technology works than it was inaccurate. That and this was Snowden's assertion is they can watch what you're doing as you're typing.
Well, he wasn't asserting anything. The PowerPoint said something.
Yeah, and it's not untrue. Both are true.
In Steve's presumption, and I agree with that. But the point is, back to Gina's question, back to your assumption that there's no such thing as private. The odds that the government could possibly care about recreating any single email of mine are next to nil.
But if they wanted to build a case against you at any point,
they could do that anyway. The issue here is not the technology. The issue here is the FISA court being secret and members of Congress being gagged. The issue here is the oversight of government and the lack of transparency. It's not. This is what I'm worried about with all this. It's that, once again, technology gets to be made into the boogeyman here, when in fact it's government. I've said often on the show.
Oh, I agree.
Government fancies itself the protector of our privacy. It is the worst enemy of privacy. It is government we have to be careful about.
Right.
And I don't say this libertarian. I'm a Hillary Clinton Democrat, folks. Let's make this clear. But I emphasize this really, really strongly. But what's happening in the discussion is, technology's bad. Internet's bad for you. Google's bad. And so what we're seeing, and also in other countries, they're saying quite properly, enraged, they don't care about spying on us. They just care about spying on the U.S., which of course is where the law hinges. But what happens now is you have European officials coming after and saying they were already after the idea, and Canadian officials too, that data stored in the U.S. was in danger of going to the government. Well, that affects Google, that affects Facebook, that affects the internet, that affects the industry that we're trying to build on, and that affects our country and things like jobs. So there's an ongoing damage that I don't think has been covered as a story yet to the net.
Well, Steve referred to this. Our European allies are very upset about this.
Yeah.
The Prime Minister of Finland said this is probably a violation of Finnish law. They're going to go to our friend Neelie Kroes, who is one of the commissioners of the EU and the woman who's been very actively pursuing Google and others for privacy. She would be the attack dog in something like this. It's damaging to our relationships in the rest of the world.
Terrible, just terrible. And I think that's not been calculated. I haven't seen anyone do that story yet. And as always, I'm in the position of defending the internet and defending Google, and I'll get in trouble for that. But whatever.
Well, as it turns out, Google is probably, given Steve's explanation, which just makes such sense, Google's not lying when they say, no, they don't have access to our servers, nor is Facebook. Google's not lying when they say, no, we don't have a secret Dropbox for them. Doesn't matter. All they have to do is tap Google. They're wiretapping Google and getting all of it.
They're wired, right. Yeah.
Get it?
Yep. So Jeff, I'm going to be really super provocative here. So you're okay with the idea that anything you send or share to Google, or that anytime you use a Google service, that you're in essence sharing that information with the NSA as well?
No, I'm not. No, I'm disagreeing with Leo that I should assume that it is shared. What I'm saying is I'm already careful because of human beings about what I send on the internet.
Yeah.
Whenever I write an email, the rule is, if you write an email, you better be comfortable with it being on page 1 of the New York Times, and didn't Petraeus learn that?
That's right. Yep.
So that was already my rule. Now, I'm sure I do stupid things, and I'm sure there's plenty of things that I do that would embarrass me just because I'm being dumb. But that's already my rule of care, and it's not because of the technology. It's not even because of government. It's because of other humans could hit CC all.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So that's all I'm saying, Gina. No. I don't believe privacy is dead. B, I value privacy. So C, I'm not saying that I've already given up on my privacy. I'm just saying that I had already set my rules of care here. Now, those are rules we have to give all of our children.
Yeah.
Too.
It also weakens our argument with countries like China when we say, hey, you guys stop hacking us.
Well, that's the next thing that came out today from Snowden, Leo. Snowden said there were 61,000 hacking operations right now from the U.S.
There's cyber attacks going on from the U.S., not only to the outside world, but he even said to you inside the U.S. That's nice.
Yeah,
Hey,
and countries we're not at war with, right?
Get
This
a
isn't
CS
just China,
degree,
right?
work for the government.
And once again, we should be a nation of principles. That's supposedly what we're run on as principles, and that's what we can hearken to. but we can't hearken to them when what we do on the basis of those or in violation of those is secret.
Well said. We're going to take a break. We will talk. Hashbugs come to Facebook. WWDC. Gina has some thoughts about the new iOS 7 and other stuff. Are you going to buy that new Mac Pro, the Darth Vader Mac Pro?
Oh man, that was the part of the keynote that I was like, no, that looks amazing. I'm excited about the Airs too. I think I'm gonna get an Air.
I already bought an
finally.
Air, but I
haven't had an Air. But that Mac Pro was like,
it's pretty. But if I were a developer or somebody who is a pro user, I'd be a little reluctant to purchase it. We'll talk about that.
Ooh, yeah, I want to talk about that.
Good place for your cat to sleep, though.
Plenty warm.
Nice warm spot right at the top there. Our show today brought to you by LegalZoom.com. LegalZoom's not a law firm. Helps you get your business done. Personal and public. LegalZoom.com. Go visit and you can see what they can do. For instance, if you, as I did when I first started Twitter, it was just me. I didn't even have any employees, but I knew I needed to protect myself with at least an LLC at $99 plus the state filing fee at LegalZoom. You don't need a lawyer to do it. And I have to say, it was very straightforward. You go through the questionnaire. Had no trouble doing it. In fact, we're still running on that LLC. Incorporation, you want to do an S or a C Corp, $99. Trademark, this is a good one. If you've got a blog or a YouTube channel, maybe you want to think about trademarking that name, that persona, that logo. Otherwise, you got no protection. And, $169, that's easy. You could do it right now. You'll be done by the end of the day. If you've got a family, you really ought to have a last will. Otherwise, the courts determine where your assets and where your kids go. And here's a nice thing. LegalZoom, while you can do all of it yourself, if you feel like, gee, I'd love to ask an attorney a question, they have the legal plan, which allows you to ask questions of an attorney in your state, somebody who's been vetted, their profiles online, and unedited reviews so you can see if this person's right for you. LegalZoom is just fabulous. I want you to try it. If there are so many ways that you can do DBAs, entity name availability check, entity name reservation, trademark search, corporate supplies, registered agent services, state tax, federal tax IDs, 501c3 application. You want to set up a nonprofit, LegalZoom can help you with that. Business licenses, seller's permits, on and on and on. Visit LegalZoom.com. If you decide there's a service you want to pick up, use our offer code TWIG and we'll get you $10 back, just as a way of saying thank you for mentioning us. LegalZoom.com. Start your business, protect your family today at LegalZoom.com. Not a law firm, self-help services at your specific direction, or you could speak to a legal plan attorney and get your questions answered and get ongoing advice. Use the offer code TWIG in the referral box at checkout and you'll get $10 off. And we thank LegalZoom for their support. So, day before yesterday, Monday, was Apple's Worldwide Developers Conference. Gina's a developer, develops for iOS. You didn't try to get tickets, I presume. Awfully hard. What did they?
No, I didn't even try.
These
It was
developers,
like 70 seconds.
Yeah,
right
boom.
over a minute,
They go
sold
so
out.
fast.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
to Apple's
I'm not on the
credit,
press list.
like Google, where there were so many people who wanted to go, they streamed the keynote, and they're streaming a lot of the sessions. If you're a registered Apple developer, you can get those on the WWDC app. So they're being pretty public about all that information. We can't report on it because if you have an NDA, you can't talk about it. So I can only, and I'm not a NDA developer, so I don't know what they're saying because I can't see it. But we were all able to see the keynote address. New MacBook Airs, no new Retina, and surprisingly, no new iMacs, only new MacBook Airs, and based on the Haswell chipset, so you get 9 hours of battery life on the 11-inch, 12 hours of battery life on the 13-inch. Wow. And a new Mac Pro that's coming sometime later this year, made in the US of A, assembled in the USA.
That's nice.
Yeah, it's an amazing process. It's extruded aluminum that's then anodized to look black. It will be a beautiful thing, but you can't upgrade anything in it except the RAM, I guess. You can't. The GPU, the graphics processors, two of them, AMD graphics processors, soldered onto the motherboard.
Steve lives.
Yeah. So this is why you wouldn't You wouldn't buy this.
Well, it will look beautiful if that's all you need.
Right, ever.
But if you're going to have anything else, you've got to buy expensive cables, Lightning, Thunderbolt 2 cables, plus external stuff. You're going to have all this stuff hanging off of this beautiful thing. It's going to look worse. It's going to look like, an octopus. But if you can get by, I'm thinking it's going to be a great alternative to the Mac Mini if you've got $5,000, $6,000 to burn.
Yeah. Do we know what the price is going to be?
No.
We don't have an idea yet.
But I can pretty much guarantee you we're in the $4,000 to $6,000 range. I mean, there's no way. It will drive up to 4 4K monitors. If you had a little money left over, you want to spend a couple of three? Only three?
Cinema displays?
Only three. Sorry, only 3 4K monitors. Pardon me?
Yeah, I was going to say, because a few cinema displays, throw those in.
Yeah, have a couple of cinema displays, some 4Ks.
$10,000 for a workstation.
Oh yeah. This is not for somebody who doesn't have the money. This is for somebody who gets their boss to pay. Is who this is for.
Yeah.
It's pretty.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, wow. I mean, I think the design is really cool. I actually kind of liked, I forget what his name, the presenter who said, can it debate my ass? I thought that was kind of funny.
That's Phil Schiller, yeah.
Phil Schiller, yeah. I thought that was funny. I love to see new Apple designs. I mean,
it's a really beautiful design. It reminds me a lot of the Cube, which I bought. I don't think it's. I don't think it's going to do very well.
I've never had a Mac Pro. I might do a Hackintosh at some point, or even that.
That's what's going to happen.
Yeah, that's a little bit of work because things break.
And it's unreliable. And maybe if it's your production machine, you don't want to have a Hackintosh. But
yeah.
What?
Yeah.
How big is the business for them to keep investing?
No, it's tiny. But it's important for a few reasons. One, a lot of people in Apple are pro users, right? So that they can't just dump that.
In short, Leo, this is Apple's Prism. I mean, Pivot. I mean,
Pixel.
Pixel.
Thank you.
One of them
Not
P
their
words.
Prism. Not their Prism.
It's a pixel in some ways. Yeah, I think you're right.
Pixel.
That's an interesting analogy. Yeah. And
Except that it has more than a browser on it.
right.
Hey,
Sorry,
Gina, what are you
sorry,
hanging
I had
around
to
with
say
Leo? Hey.
But if you're a video editor, you're going to have to buy expensive new Thunderbolt arrays, Thunderbolt cables. It's just not cheap. There's no way this is going to be. You're going to end up spending $10,000 for a system. It's
I have
beautiful.
not lusted after a desktop machine in 10 years.
Yeah.
I know, that was the thing, right? They made me want a desktop for the first time in a long time. I'm gonna get the Air. I'm not gonna get a Mac Pro, but yeah, I was like, wow, that's one good looking little
iOS 7, a lot of controversy. Joshua Topolsky said it was childish, ugly. There's a lot of energy put into translucency. Boy, it's very Android-like. I mean, you even have a dedicated flashlight button.
Yeah, so too bad for all those flashlight apps. We talked about this a little bit on All About Android last night. There's a little bit of arrow, like Windows arrow going on with the blur and the transparency.
Yeah. By the way, I asked Renee Ritchie, who's a developer, and that is real time. And you can see it if you look at it. The effects are real time, but based on what's underneath. When you slide up or slide down that notification panel, that real time translucency, that's a lot of work.
Oy.
And there it is, the flashlight icon. But look at those icons. Just let's go back a little bit to chat, if you will. I know that's a video on Apple's site. There's Johnny Ive. Here it is, slide to unlock. And
it has to tell you that, by the way.
Yeah, but it's slide up now, which is okay. So look at those icons at the bottom there.
Flashlights.
Yeah.
Clock.
Yeah. Well, good. Yeah, that's what that
Calculator?
is. That's a clock.
Clock, calculator, and camera.
Yeah, very good. Nicely done.
And actually, that looks different than what's on my phone right now. So they've actually changed it. Or it's possible. Oh, I just don't have AirDrop and AirPlay, and I enable. That's why
Yeah,
mine is.
AirDrop is for contacts only. As you can see, I've been listening to Get Lucky from Daft Punk. Actually, on this phone, can you show my phone? I'm listening to, that's my bitch, Kanye West and Jay-Z. Hey, I don't know whose phone this is, but I'm giving it back quick. This is very Android-like, these buttons up at top. Airplane mode, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, do not disturb, and rotation lock. I don't know.
Yeah, but this is so I think they actually did this. This is blasphemy, I know, but I think they did the control center a little bit better than Android has done with the quick toggle shade.
It's pretty
because it's pretty well. There's the transparency eye candy, but there's also just fewer taps. So like the brightness slider, for example. On Android, you'd have to tap brightness, and then you get the slider. The slider's right there here in the control center. And I really like that you swipe up, so it's one motion. Whereas on Android and Jelly Bean, you swipe down, and then you have to tap the button to flip the notification shade around to get to the quick toggle. Because Google Now is the swipe up.
Now I should point out that's because you're using vanilla Android. Here it is on the Samsung where you have the brightness right there. In fact, this very much looks this looks almost identical to TouchWiz.
Oh, good, another suit.
Right. Well, it's funny. Like I was thinking about how there was such a strong emotional response to the iOS 7 redesign. People either loved it or they hated it. And I was thinking about how Android's such a chameleon, right? Like it looks different depending on what kind of phone you have and what skin you're running and what widgets you've got.
There is no Android look, right?
There is no unified Android look, right? But there is a unified iOS look, and people are very, very attached to it, and people flip out when things change. So I think, folks really responded emotionally about this, which is really a testament to the product. People love, people love iOS, and you just wouldn't quite get that reaction with Android. So yeah, it's true. I've said this a couple
of the
times.
Apple fanboy, one or the other.
Well, yeah. Well, listen, there's Android fanboys too. I felt like the crowd I run around with is on Google Plus and stuff. They're mostly Android users, and I heard a lot of people saying, "Oh, they're just ripping off Android." I don't know if that's true. I mean, I think, and I was saying this on All About Android last night, I think we are sort of converging upon a particular feature set. But I think that Apple's MO, unlike Google's, is to kind of work really slowly in secret and iterate and kind of slowly release what seem to be very basic features like copy and paste. But they take their time, and they kind of, that measure twice, cut once thing. And so it's interesting to me to see what they come up with. When Google's quick toggle settings page in the notification shade in the quick toggle settings area came out, I thought to myself, this is crazy. That button doesn't represent anything. Why do I have to tap so many times in order just to go into airplane mode? And so I think that Apple did some nice stuff here. It doesn't feel innovative. Well, that parallax effect.
There's some stuff. There's copying. I said there's copying. There's what did I say? Copying. Now I forgot my own aphorism. Catch up. There's some catch up they're playing here. There's some copying, and then there's some innovation, and there's probably an equal measure. I have no problem with this. This is how it should be. Each company should copy one another and until we iterate and get the best possible product, because that's what's best for consumers. But I think why it irritates people is that Apple has been so aggressively suing companies like Samsung who do the same thing.
Well, here's the other thing, though, the guys. I say this as no insult to Apple, but nothing wowed me in this. This was a shrug to me. And the truth is, I haven't been wowed by anything new on a phone in 2 years?
May not be possible.
And so I think your point about we're arriving at the feature set is right.
Yeah.
For both sides, and a smartphone is a smartphone is a smartphone now. Yeah, there's differences, and yeah, you have choice, and I love the choice. But there's really very little major difference among them.
There were some surprises. For instance, we thought maybe they would add, and maybe they will in the next iPhone, and this is just the preview. Remember, this isn't the version of iOS that will ship in the fall. But they mentioned Passbook not at all. They didn't mention any, they didn't mention, how I might be able to use an NFC-like technology. There's a lot of stuff missing. Passbook was one of the big stories a year ago, and they didn't say one word about it this year.
Mm-hmm.
The other big story out of this one was the quiet mention that Siri goes to Bing.
Yes.
It works so well for your maps, Apple.
Yes.
No wonder you're doing it again.
There's still Google. Safari uses Google as its default search, but Siri now uses Bing for web searches. Now, somebody said yesterday that that's because Siri's a partner deal. So all of the tools that Siri uses are basically financial arrangements that Apple makes with other companies like Wolfram Alpha. So, and Bing, presumably. So presumably Bing just gave them more money.
That wouldn't be very aptly, would it?
Well, no, that's how Siri works. Siri is about partnerships.
But Apple shouldn't be.
I do not like the new color palette at all, and I think it's a little candy colored.
For the default icons,
yeah, it's a little Nicki Minaj to me.
Yeah, FaceTime is bright green, and the Safari icon is pretty bad. The phone and iTunes.
It's very bright. Look how bright it is. But that's a choice. That's called design. You make a choice. And as they showed in that video at the very beginning, they really, at the very beginning, Apple set the tone for this. Do we have that video that Apple ran at the very beginning of the conference? Because they essentially said,
video.
having a lot, they really kind of, in a way, it was a backhand at
dinged Android.
At Android.
Dinged Android.
Having lots of choices does not mean good design.
Confusing abundance or it was like confusing abundance with choice, or I forget how.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find that video.
It was if everybody is making everything,
Here we
how
go.
can we perfect anything?
If everyone is busy making everything, I call that innovation and excitement. How can anyone perfect anything? They're really making a pitch for, we're going to choose. We start to confuse convenience, they say, with joy. So we're going to choose joy for you. Abundance with choice. Well,
and this all struck me as marketing blather.
Well, no. What this is Johnny Ive. This is designer point of view. What designers think, rightly or wrongly, is we know, we'll do it for you. You don't understand design, we do. Let us do this.
It's the cathedral.
The cathedral.
Yeah.
And that's completely legitimate point of view. And what's nice is we have the bazaar to choose from as well. I mean, we've got Android. Mm-hmm. And so I don't have a problem with. There are 1,000 no's. Those are all those Android devices for every yes. We simplify, we perfect, we start over until everything we touch enhances each life. Oh, you could stop it.
Oy.
I know, I hate that. That's a little schmaltzy.
Oy.
But it is the point of view of all designers. I have taste, you don't. Let me, designer, I see this all the time. Please, don't tell me what to do.
Which makes them so much fun to work with.
No, and that's why people don't like him. But I also completely respect it. When Rand
Make the logo bigger.
did the next logo, what's his name? Paul Rand, who was it that did the next logo? Yeah. He said, Steve Jobs said, I want you to design the next logo. Rand said, I'd be glad to, but I don't want any input. I'm not going to show you specs. I'm not going to show you prototypes. I'm going to give it to you. It's done. That's it. For $100,000, by the way. And now it's a beautiful logo, but that's exactly the attitude. No. This is not a collaborative process. This is what you get. And of course, he's a design superstar, as you say, Lunchman in the chat room. He can say that, and he could charge $100,000 for it. And Jobs was glad to do it. Now that's interesting because Jobs always saw himself as the same way. You know, I have taste. Anyway, I don't like it, but I don't care because I'm not using it. I'm an Android fanboy. I love Android.
You don't like it because of the color scheme and the.
I'd be feeling like I'm holding a piece of cotton candy.
Talk about emasculating.
Yeah.
When the new iPhone comes out, you're not gonna get one, Leo, just to kind of.
No, I have to get it. No, that's my job. Of course, we'll get it. But I don't currently use my iPhone 5. It's sitting
I saw
on the
nothing
shelf.
in iOS 7 that made me say, "Oh, I think I got to switch back." But
yeah.
Nothing there. So then,
I mean,
Gina, to your point, what could the hardware do in the new phone that would be so amazing that I would say, "Oh, I got to switch back"? And it's a little hard to imagine.
Here's the image that really says it all to me.
Yeah.
Nicki Minaj, iOS 7, together
Here's what
at
I'll
last.
say about the iPhone. I'm not going to switch from Android, and this might be blasphemy, but there is one thing that I will say about the iPhone, and that is that the phone is always very responsive, very smooth, takes great photos. There are times on Android, even with pretty up-to-date hardware, where you get the spinner, you get the force close, things feel a little jaggy. I got to go into what processors are running and kill them off. The iOS experience, even with this beta, is very smooth, is much smoother.
Well, there's no question
and the one thing the one drum
Android
that I've
can
been
do that,
banging
yes.
with Android is that the camera experience. I still with
it's
the baby,
horrible.
can get really good photos with the iPhone with one hand, barely trying, than I can with my Android phone.
No, and the Galaxy S4 has some huge bug, which means that the phone lags and sometimes resets the.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just terrible.
you can't have lag when you.
That
So
took
those,
like
those
3
are only
seconds.
two things. Those are really the only two things. Look, I said, I think I tweeted this one after the keynote. I feel like iOS 7 makes my phone look brand new, and it makes my app look ancient. Like, I'm definitely gonna have to dive in iOS and just make my app.
I was wondering because I guess
just,
all the app developers are scrambling now because they have a palette. Apple gave them a palette, and in fact, if I look at this iPhone 5, which is running iOS 7, and I look at how do you unlock it now?
Slide to the other side. There you go.
Didn't it used to be that way? You look at some of the old icons, they just look wrong.
Oh, yeah, no, I know. My icon, too, is so detailed. It looks completely wrong.
Completely.
Yeah.
So everybody's going to... Waze, fortunately, is looking great, but everybody else is going to have to redo their icons. In fact, when this seems to be too bright, it's like there's no contrast in... This is the dock compared to what's going on up here.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm way too embedded in the Google sort of ecosystem to switch back to iPhone, and I don't have a desire to. But that's the only thing about I cracked my Galaxy Nexus screen, so I'm actually going to get
the
HTC One. Yeah.
You're going to get the one? All right.
Yeah, I am. I'm going to get the one. So I'm excited.
Are you
I'm
going to
very,
get the
very excited
vanilla
about
one?
that.
You're getting the vanilla one.
I think I'm gonna if they were to get the Google edition. I know Leo said Zoe's.
Well, here's what I would do. I would get the regular edition because you'll be able to put the Google edition ROMs on it. In other words, you'll have choice.
Right. I could get the developers. This is the thing. I have one of these pay-as-you-go T-Mobile deals. I don't want to get a contract. I could just get the developer version, the HTC developer version, which comes with all the HTC stuff on it.
That's what I would do.
Yeah, I mean,
but you don't even need to do that because HTC makes it easy to boot unlock any HTC one. Mm-hmm. So I immediately rooted in mine and put a weird ROM on it that gives me 422, but Sense. It's the international ROM.
Oh,
but the ability to do that, as opposed to getting the vanilla one from Google, you never have access to Sense at all unless HTC puts it out. But they say they're not. They're not going to put out the Zoe, the camera app and all that stuff.
I still don't understand why they don't make those apps available separately, because the more people download them, the more it proves how wonderful they are.
They say they can't because they're tied so closely into additional stuff that's built into Sense, which is very possible. For instance, you have to have a different gallery app to understand the Zoes and things like that.
And they couldn't restrict it to just the one, right? I don't think you can restrict apps to a particular device. I think it's just a platform.
You can. Oh, all the time there are devices. I can't download an app because it says no, you can't.
Wallet won't let you do it.
Right, based on hardware. Okay. Yeah. So you're right. You're right. I'm going to look in the. So they could do that, right? They could just say just the HTC One.
Right. Right. I would get a normal one, and then because I'm sure that the Google ROM will be available within minutes. So root it, put Clockwork Mod on it, and ROM Manager, and then then you have anything you want.
Yeah. I'm so lazy though that I might just want to just get the updates from Google, not have to root. I don't know. I'm thinking about it. This phone is still functioning, and I still got a couple of days.
You got time to think about it.
I got time to think about it before I can pull the trigger.
And I'm waffling back and forth between the Galaxy S4 and the HTC One. The One is beautiful hardware. There's no doubt about it. It's beautiful. I like the camera. I love the front-facing speakers, the fit and the finish. Beautiful.
The battery?
And I've got the battery now to a decent amount, but I still...
But is that because you gave up stuff, Leo?
It's because I put a lot of doohickeys on there.
Oh, okay.
I had to root it. But the whole problem, and this is, by the way, Apple addressed this when they're talking about iOS 7, this whole idea of AppNap and coalescing wake locks and things like that. That's the problem with Android, is that any application can wake up the phone even when the screen's off. Hey, I got to get some data. So basically the phone remains in a wake state all the time, and the battery goes. Zzz. Facebook's is the worst. One of the best things you can do to improve battery life on Android is to either remove Facebook or at the very least tell it stop getting updates. So that's the trick on Android, is to tell things stop getting updates. And iOS can do it by fiat because Apple really controls the OS. And they're just going to say, hey, you go through us if you want an update. and we're going to make sure we coalesce those. So they should be able to get great battery life on iOS 7. That should make it even better. And so, yeah. On the other hand, and this is kind of cheesy hardware, the Galaxy S4.
Yeah.
There's no perfect phone yet. I'm still waiting. You know what I'm really interested in? And Motorola asked us to a special briefing, I think next week or the week after.
Oh, the Moto X phone.
That's the one I'd wait for if I were you, Gina.
Yeah.
I think it's imminent.
Yeah,
You do?
yeah.
Ooh,
I'll have to hang in there.
That's going to
terrible.
be the Nexus 4 next.
When is
Yeah.
that? What is that again, Leo?
When did they invite me to it? They invited me to a briefing, and I have to assume it was for that. I'm not going because I don't go to press briefings, but
They're still calling it.
they're not saying
Moto
anything.
X.
Well, they did call it X, didn't they?
Yeah, they're calling it Moto X.
But it's not a
Right, 'cause
Droid.
they were calling it the X phone, and now they're just calling it Moto X.
I think that without knowing anything about it, potentially that could be very interesting.
Yeah, the problem with doing all about Android is every week I get to hear about the great new phone that's right on the horizon.
That's why
you're immediately going to have purchase regret.
That's why I like Android. Choice
and abundance.
and abundance. Nothing wrong with abundanza.
Nothing wrong.
I'm a nice Italian boy. Somebody,
Eat your meatballs.
you might have to wait till. Yeah, you can't wait till October. If it's not till September or October, that's too long.
Yeah, no, that is too long. That is too long.
Well, but
It breaks my heart every time I look at the screen.
Yeah. We'll see. Let's take a break. When we come back, the Google change log. Gina Trapani will tell us everything that's happened at Google, and it's not a whole lot.
It's not a lot this week. Really thin this
They're
week.
kind of resting after a very productive Google I/O.
well, they're trying to snoop on us all, so that's what they're busy doing.
They don't have to. That's the beauty of Steve's hypothesis. They don't have to do anything. They don't even have to know about it. And they did. Google has asked, as have some other companies, to be able to be more open about what they're being asked for.
Yes, they
This
want to
is
enhance
important.
the transparency report.
Let us talk about these NSLs.
In fact, we should have Brian Fitzpatrick on sometime.
I'd love to.
Because he
be
worked
great.
on the transparency report. He's the data liberation guy.
Yes, love him. Would you make a note of that, Chad? Let's get Brian on. Fitz, they call him.
Great.
Fitz.
And by the way, we should note here that Twitter's role here, and Twitter, though it befuddles me sometimes with its relationship with developers and users, whatever it was, Twitter's been left out of this list because Twitter has really held on principle and tried to hold back. Now, Twitter surely has had FISA requests too, though they have less data value, and they've got to deal with that as well. But hats off to Twitter.
Yeah,
But
We think.
okay,
What have they
but-
not
but if
done?
Steve's theory is true though.
Yeah.
So if Steve's
doesn't
theory
matter.
is true, which sounds like it could be, they don't need consent from these companies. They could have tapped Twitter's outgoing or
Well, no,
upstream
but then
line as well.
Gina, then why would there be any FISA warrant requests?
I'll tell you
to
why.
these
And this
companies?
is the whole point of this. And this why you
Once you know who, then you know what you go for.
no, other way around. You collect everything. Once you're in an investigation, you go back and you say, oh, yeah, interesting. There's a bunch of direct messages going on between this guy in Egypt and this guy in Syria. Then you go to, you know where it came from because you tapped it at the source. You could say, hey,
So you're
Twitter.
making a very limited request, FISA request, and the company has no choice but to say, okay, that's not overbroad.
It's an NSL.
I got to give it to you.
Twitter, we know these conversations happen on this date at this time. Who was that? Twitter says, here you go. I can't stop you.
I can't
And
stop you. Right.
None of these
Okay.
none of these companies are saying they do not comply with federal requests.
No,
of course
they
they
have
do.
to.
Right.
They have to.
Right.
They'd be in jail if they didn't.
Yep.
Right.
So
They're
this is
saying
the
they
beauty of Steve's theory, and it may be a castle made of air. I don't know, because no one knows. But the beauty of this theory is all the federal government has to do is go to the tier 1 service providers, which includes names like Verizon and AT&T, where have we heard those names before, and say to them, I want to plug in to where Google, Twitter,
Okay.
Facebook goes onto the internet. I want to
now
split
stop there,
that
Leo.
data off.
Stop there, Leo, for a second. Because what authority do they need to do that? Because that is snooping on us all.
Well, and this is what
that
Steve
a
said.
FISA warrant?
No, well, this is what Steve said. This is public internet. So it may not be
anybody
illegal to
can
gather this
compute
data.
that.
So anybody can do that. It's public internet. Anybody can just
I don't know.
listen on a line.
I don't know. That's a very good question. I don't know. I think we need to ask our legal friends about this. But
let's get Ed Snowden on the show. Maybe we can talk to him.
Yeah. Hey, Ed. I know you're in Hong Kong for a while.
Wherever.
It doesn't sound like he has a whole lot to do.
But we know already that neither AT&T nor Verizon had any scruples at all about handing everything over, right? These backbone companies, nobody's going to the backbone companies and saying, hey, level 3, what are you telling the feds? Nobody's asked them
because story now.
Nobody knows to ask them. That's who you need to ask. And they may say, instead of a blanket denial, we're not allowed to speak, which is the truth.
That's really true. That's the story that should be done.
Right, and that's what Google and Facebook would have said, right? If they had been complying, but they couldn't talk, but they would have said,
exactly.
We are legally.
They're not required to lie. They're required not to reveal anything.
Okay.
Right? They can't be required to lie.
Right. So they can say we can't discuss this.
Exactly.
And then they didn't. Okay. So all right. So we got to find the person who says I can't discuss it.
And guess what? The telcos have been indemnified by the federal government for exactly this kind of data revelation.
Mm-hmm.
Wonder why? Why would the federal government make the step of indemnifying the telcos if they weren't doing this? I think it all fits together.
That's my very intelligent analysis.
Oy. Mamma mia. What do Italians say instead of do?
Well, we say oy vey, but that's not Italian.
Oh, no, the Italian way to say that, oy vey Maria.
Oy
vey
My
Maria.
mother would say Jesus, Mary, and Joseph.
Jesus,
That's what
Mary,
my
and
mother would
Joseph.
say.
Holy
Sorry, Mom.
cow. Oh, yeah. But that's exactly the reaction. Oy. Mio Dio. Porco
Yeah,
can.
there you go.
Porco Dio. No, now I'm sorry. Those were very, very foul, vulgarities in Italian, so I apologize to anybody who speaks Italian. I was taught to swear in Italian by an Italian chess master. I used to play chess, and he the worst vulgarities ever. So if you speak Italian, I apologize. Madon.
Madonna.
Madon. I love Italian. I can't wait to go to Italy. Our show today brought to you by 99 Designs. We use them to do those beautiful shirts. What is it? I don't know what that was. What it is there's a community. Oh, all right. A community of 231,177 designers at last count. Somewhere over 200,000 designers who are sitting there waiting to pounce on your design request. They will create specs for you. They'll work with you to refine it. You pick the design you like, you pay them, and very reasonably, and you get amazing designs. Visit 99designs.com just to take a look. Design categories include logo design, starts at $299. Web design starts at $599. Digital marketing collateral, $199. Apparel like T-shirts and hoodies, $199. Even mobile app design is very affordable. You tell them what you need. You fill out their online design brief. You even say, this is how much I'm willing to pay. Designers then say, okay, I'd like to compete for that. And you'll get dozens of designs. You pick your favorite design. There you go. There are currently 1,947 open contests for 220,000 designers. That's pretty good. $1.8 million in payouts last month alone, a total of $54 million in payouts. 99 Designs works. It's a design marketplace. And now you get a special deal if you go to 99designs.com/twig today. 99designs.com/twig. Or call 800-513-1678. That's a special number for Twit listeners. I'll give it to you again in a second. Here's what you'll get. A $99 power pack of services for free. A power pack gives you more designer time, more designer attention. They'll bold, highlight, and feature your design project in the 99 Designs marketplace. You'll get nearly twice as many designs. Call 800-513-1678 or go right there to 99designs.com/twig. If you need beautiful designs, this is the way to do it. No arrogance here. No my way or the highway. No Paul Rand, I'll make it, but you can't reject it. Nope. You work, you collaborate, you get the design you want for a great price. 99designs.com/twig. We thank them for their support of This Week in Google. Ladies and gentlemen, break out the trumpets. It's time for the Google Change Log.
The Google Change Log.
Really thin change log this week.
No boy, no kidding.
Yeah, we're post Google I/O, we're mid Prism, but a couple of new things. First, Google has released the stock Android keyboard for
good.
Android 4.0 and above in the Play Store.
Yeah.
So anybody who's got an Android device running 4.0 and above and doesn't want to use the carrier supplied keyboard, just go over to Play Store, search for Google Keyboard, and you can see if it's compatible with your device and download it. And of course, the keyboard has gesture typing and voice typing and next word suggestions and dictionaries for 26 languages and works across your devices, tablets and phones. Really nice. So this Google Keyboard joins a list of apps which Google continues to sort of decouple from Android
Calendar
and offer
came
in the Play
out.
Store.
What
Gmail,
else?
Calendar,
Gmail.
Chrome, Hangouts, YouTube, Google Search, Voice Search, Sound Search, Maps, Earth. I mean, they're really Google Plus. We had the Google Play services kind of get decoupled so that it can issue updates. And the reason why they're doing this is so that they can issue updates to these core Google apps.
Otherwise, they're
via the Play Store.
ROM.
Right. Unless they don't want to get hung up in the whole operating system push out, right? So this is a nice way to do it. We talked about this on All About Android last night. There's still a few apps that they could decouple. They haven't.
What?
The camera,
Which ones? Camera, yeah.
Camera, gallery, the launcher, people. So yeah.
Launcher would be cool because we all, I think we all use third-party launchers these days. A Google vanilla launcher.
It would be kind of fun, right? Or Google
How
Plus
much of that
launcher?
stuff? Let me ask a question then. How much of that kind of separate release would make it okay for you to get a Samsung or HTC?
I got to tell you, having Nova Launcher available made me happy with Samsung. Otherwise, I wouldn't have used it because Samsung puts the apps button in the wrong spot, and there's just weird stuff. So having a custom launcher, and Nova Launcher is about as close to 422's launcher as you can get. So I think third-party launchers are, like third-party keyboards, a very important part of Android. Another reason to choose Android, I think.
Yeah, you can make any phone your own. To answer your question, Jeff, you just have to have the Play Store on your phone, right? So it has to be a Google approved device in that it has the Play Store. But then, I mean, you really
what I'm really saying is, I don't want to buy an HTC or a Samsung phone because I don't want all the cruft, as you would say, Gina.
Right.
But if I can rather than taking all that off and putting the stock Android on there, if I can add enough stock Android stuff on top of Samsung or HTC, does that change my attitude about buying one of their phones?
Well, the problem is there's some stuff that you just can't uninstall, and there are some things that get disabled. So like tethering, for example, that's one reason why I might not get a contract HTC One, right? Because I tether, right? And that's enabled in vanilla, pure vanilla Android, but that's disabled unless you pay for it or whatever in other in carrier supplied versions of Android. And sometimes there are apps that you just can't, they disable uninstalling. So you're kind of like, you can put the core Google experience apps on top of what comes with it. But then the attraction of vanilla Android for me is none of the cruft that you can't uninstall. And then also just the direct updates from Google. I never want there to be a version of Android that comes out that I either have to wait for or I have to root and ROM for.
That's the huge
necessarily.
thing.
Yeah. That's
but when you get if you got a Sense-based HTC One, Facebook can't be uninstalled.
Facebook cannot be uninstalled.
No,
Facebook
you can disable
cannot be
it.
uninstalled.
You can't uninstall it. So that's an example.
So I mean, and it's most things where it's like, okay, fine,
Carrier
the icons
stuff.
in the app drawer, like, okay, is that going to bother you enough? I mean, maybe I'm maybe I'm super anal.
But see, if
But I
you,
get, like,
unlike the iPhone, if you don't like the candy cane color scheme, you can get any color scheme, any theme, any launcher.
Yeah.
These are so highly customizable.
That's true.
I think that's a really strong argument for it. For instance,
I agree.
I don't like it that 422 requires this Google bar at the top. On this, I can turn it off in the launcher. So Nova Launcher says, "Do you want it or not?" And so I leave it on, but you don't have to if you didn't want that space used. So in some ways, I think having a launcher on top of 422 vanilla is probably a good idea.
That's actually a really good point about that Google bar. I'd never tried to remove it, but you're right. You can't
It's a
remove
waste
it.
of space.
I mean, I actually use it, but yeah.
Well, you know what I
that's a good point.
do? I do use it because it's the now button. So what you could do instead is have a now button, and then I made swipe up be the voice search. So that's a very easy gesture I can do with my thumb. I can do any time. It doesn't require exactly double tapping or finding this little tiny microphone icon. I just do that. It's very easy to do.
Right.
So that's something that the Nova launcher lets you do. And I think that it's things like that. Boy, that's to me, it's just a no-brainer for Android. I like to be able to do stuff like that.
I agree. I wondered whether or not iOS 7 was going to have some sort of home screen customization that went beyond being able to add as many icons as you want to a folder, which everyone clapped at. And I was like, oh, you poor
Come
fools.
on, that's so sad. That's so sad.
I had a serious moment of Android superiority.
Yeah.
I will admit to that. I was like, oh, that's too bad. But yeah, I mean, the parallax effect is cool, but still, widgets are a huge thing.
There's
for
two
me.
live icons. There's now the clock icon shows the actual time, and the calendar icon, which has always showed the date, continues to show the date. The weather icon, which should show the weather, Apple made a big deal about, doesn't show the weather.
It doesn't actually show.
Come on! I have to open weather to see what the weather is. Come on.
Of course, all you have to do is
Come on. Next I'll be going like this.
You need your segue.
Come on.
All right, so the second 50% of the changelog this week, very 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 minor change to Google image search. Now, when you do an image search for something, so the example on Google operating system here is if you search for Nexus 7, there's a related search bar across the top, and actually the related search bar will suggest other searches, but will show you thumbnails of what you'll get in those searches as well. So you're really kind of doing multiple searches at once.
There's also a story in the rundown about how Google did the image search, that there was a University of Toronto company that developed a whole bunch of fancy technology, and Google bought them to get that.
Oh yeah, this is on the research blog how they're doing the semantic search on your the other week when we were doing search my photos for flowers or search my photos for food, right? The image recognition.
DNN Research.
Exactly.
Spun out of a UT project from Professor Jeffrey Hinton. That's kind of cool. That's neat.
Yeah.
Really cool. Yeah, so I just did an image search for Leo Laporte, and I get young photos. I get 2013 photos.
What?
Family photos. Yeah. So you can see
Wait a
some
minute. Wait a minute. Now I got to do that. That's cool. I haven't noticed that. Okay.
Again, every Twig episode devolves into us Googling ourselves.
Yeah. And that's really the whole point of Google. But by the way, I got to point out, young, I don't, that one on the left, is that even me? Who is that?
I don't know. That looks like.
It looks
Were
like
you
what the guy who was on used to be
That's
on
not
Jersey
the
TV.
young Leo Laporte. I can tell you that right now. That's great. And I'm glad they have an entry called sexting. That's wonderful. Family, wife, studio. This is interesting. So this is from a University of Toronto group. That's very interesting. Huh. And then it just gives you the pool of stuff. Cool.
Yep.
With other people in it, but I guess all related to me. I don't know who that guy is. Let us move on.
That's all I got for the changelog.
That is the
short
Google
ones.
changelog. Play the drums. Boom, 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 boom. The Google changelog. Did you see the glass teardown? That was kind of cool. Did it make you sad, Gina, to see it all taken apart?
I guess so. I have been sort of treating it with kid gloves. I have to. I seeing it kind of torn apart was a little bit like I always react to teardowns that way.
Yeah, I mean,
it is pretty simple.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
It's
not
a couple
that
of circuit
many
boards, a battery, little transducer for the ear. Cool. And this is from catwig.com. So,
I honestly have not been using glass as much as
Really?
As much as I should be. I should really be trying to. I need to give it kind of the serious effort of integrating it into my life, and I haven't quite gotten there yet.
I put up a Google Plus post.
I saw
saying,
that.
Hey, Google, unless you want Robert Scoble to be henceforth the
Glass.
official spokesman for Glass, would you get it out to the rest of us? And then I said, no offense, Robert, but I'd step over my grandmother to get it. And of course, the comment exchange
Yeah.
was taken over by people going after Robert and Robert answering back, and it's just
Lord.
hilarious. He's
You can't.
defending the notion of publicness and everything else. It's kind of great.
He's a lightning rod.
Oh, he's amazing.
He's a lightning rod.
But if I had glass, folks are starting to get them, right, Jeff? I don't think it's long for you.
Is it okay? Well, it's not, what I'm hearing is people who got their confirmation on Google Plus. Okay, but those of us who got confirmation on Twitter, I still have this fear that it was actually a fake account on Twitter and they didn't do anything on Twitter.
Oh, I think it was a verified account. Wasn't it a verified account?
Was it?
I think you're going to be okay. It's funny that they would make tweeters wait longer, though, than Google Plus.
Yeah, well, it makes sense. I can't
I
blame
mean,
it.
it kind of makes sense because Google Plus is built into Glass. Sharing a Google Plus is built into Glass.
So, but let me ask you now, Jeff. In some ways, I think the delay might have helped you. Do you still want to spend $1,500 on this? I wouldn't.
It's a good question because it's not unlike phone questions. I would rather get probably what they learned from this and get the consumer device. But
Yeah, I mean, you're getting a very limited device for $1,500.
yeah. But given what I do here and what I do in my day job, I probably should get it.
If your day job would pay for it, I would do it.
Well, that's what I'm going to try to make it do. Yes.
Yeah. That's why Jason
not
has
tax
Glass.
dollars, foundation dollars. Yes.
Day job paid for it. Google Glass Explorers getting notifications from UPS. Have you got a notification? Maybe it's just going to arrive one day.
They can't because you got to go through the whole Megillah.
I don't know. They say they're just getting these strange notifications. Order processed, ready for UPS, shipped to them by Google X.
But I didn't pick a color yet.
Maybe maybe there's an invitation in the UPS.
That's probably what it is.
Yeah. Because they're not going to just pop a
They don't
glass
have
in the mail.
they don't have my home address.
Oh, okay.
I guess they do. They have everything. They just went and called the NSA and said, "What's Jarvis's home address?" No problem. We got it right here.
Apparently, somebody, and this I'd be much more interested. I paid more for this. Has put Google Glass capabilities into contact lenses. Now that I'd pay for.
They put the first effort to get a screen into a contact lens, so that and they put it on a rabbit, and so the rabbit wore it for 6 hours and didn't rub its eyes, so it's okay.
Thank God they tested it thoroughly.
And now,
The
now rabbit
cosmetics,
has
however,
ADD.
were driving it nuts.
Yeah, it was burning. They coated a contact lens with a conductor and then placed a light-emitting diode on it. I love this idea. I would, if this is
cool?
10 years off, I'm happy.
Yeah.
I hope it is. Because that's my big problem with glass. So this way, nobody didn't even know you're wearing it.
Well, but it wouldn't be able to take pictures and send them. It would just be a display.
That's fine.
So
I
what
can
you
have the
to do
camera
now
somewhere else.
is put a camera into your eyebrow, and then we're okay.
Yeah, exactly. Google filed a patent to let you unlock your phone with not merely face recognition, but faces, winks, smiles, grimaces.
You can
I
stick
hope
your
this
tongue
is.
out.
I hope this is true. Unlock. I would love that. An ocular movement, sticking out your tongue, opening your mouth, moving your eyebrows. Nobody has my face and can do
But there's a
this.
patent file I looked at.
Isn't that funny? I think that's smart.
Yeah.
So you have to do the Z with your eyes.
Yeah.
Unlock it.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, you didn't unlock the phone. Google's going to be banned in Pakistan if it doesn't clean up YouTube. I don't even know whether it's worth talking about. Of course.
No.
No.
Yeah.
I thought Google search hits and YouTube views are a key predictor of whether a movie's going to make bucks at the box office.
But what that's really saying, though, Leo, is buzz.
Yeah.
And interest is the key predictor. So it's not as if there's a causation or anything like that. It just says if people are curious about a movie before it comes out, if it has enough buzz, that's a predictor.
We've seen that before predicting presidential elections, too, right? I mean, this isn't that much of a surprise. I think it makes a lot of sense.
And Twitter has been a key predictor in the same way that the discussion of a movie for 2 weeks beforehand.
So the red line on this graph is box office index. The blue line is non-title film-related search. and the gray one is the search for a specific title. And boy, they could not be more closely linked. That's practically 1-to-1 correlation.
Speaking of movies,
Yes.
Yes.
who has seen The Internship?
Oh, I know Jeff has. Have you?
Yes,
I
she
have.
did too.
We got a babysitter.
You
the
didn't,
whole thing.
Leo?
Is it in the theaters?
It is. It opened this past weekend.
Well, I'm hearing very good things about it.
Gina, you first.
It's okay. You know what? I'm too close to Google to be able to sort of, because, just been covering it for so many years with you two, that I found myself thinking like, well, that's not the head of search. Like I was like upset about the casting decisions. And, there were some lines that were sort of cheesy. Oh, this is in our DNA. That's not in our DNA. Or be like, oh, that wouldn't be in nuclear, orientation.
Yeah.
So I was being the sort of annoying, nitpicking geek. I found it interesting that I don't think this is a spoiler. I mean, the moral of the story was basically that human empathy matters as much, if not more, than data and algorithms, which I thought was kind of ironic. I mean,
I don't think that's true.
Because it's not true at Google.
I don't think that's true.
It's not true. And there was a line where there was one line where they said diversity is in our DNA, which I also thought, meaning diversity of their staff, which I thought was a little bit like that.
Isn't that not true?
I don't know. Is it? But overall, it was fine. It was enjoyable. There were a couple of laughs. I thought, Owen Wilson.
I thought the first half was pretty excruciatingly boring, and the last half became charming. All the complaints about, it's a commercial for Google. Well, what was it supposed to be? An attack on Google?
It's very much a commercial for Google. Absolutely.
Yeah,
it's an homage to Google. Clearly, Google cooperated with them. And there were a couple of cameos. Paige and Bryn were both in it. It was interesting. I mean, if you think about the Facebook movie, the social network versus the internship, Anil asked, what are the cultural implications that the Facebook movie was such a different experience, right, than the internship? One was, I think, feel kind of very, very critical of Facebook and cast Zuckerberg in this sort of negative light, whereas this was a very sort of lighthearted romp through, this wonderland that is this campus or whatever. I don't know. It was fine. It was fine. I think
the whole thing is about a lot of people competition. And I saw one of a real life intern wrote about the movie. They had a lot of that going on in there.
Oh yeah.
And one said it's the experience is not like that. It's not a competition. But then again, everything at Google is probably a competition to some extent.
Well, and interestingly, the final bit of the competition when it came down to it, and this might be a little bit of a spoiler, but I won't say more. But it was selling advertising, right? Like the thing that the team was going to win, whether or not they could sell.
Hollywood knows what Google's business is.
Yeah. So which was interesting, which was definitely interesting.
Yeah. I'll go see it then. It sounds like I should see it because I am.
It's
on the
homework
show.
for you. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you like it, Jeff? Expect more from a professional critic than B-. Okay.
Yeah. I would say that if you didn't do what we do, if you have it's a perfectly pleasant night, you can take your kids to it. That's fine.
Yeah.
It would be a happily spent hour and a half on cable.
Good. I'll save it.
Yeah.
I'm always saving movies for cable. Yeah.
No, you should go see it, Leah.
Oh, all right.
That's not renastic. Glass was in it. Arthur. The self-driving car was in it.
The self-driving car name
Glass.
is Arthur?
No, in the chat room. Arthur in the chat room asked.
Okay.
Glass was in it.
Gina, did you see Glass? I didn't see Glass.
I think wasn't Sergey wearing glass?
Now people have been debating about that. I think it was like presumed. It was. I'm not sure he was.
Huh. I don't. At this point, does he go anywhere without glass?
We're so used to seeing him with glass. It's just assumed to be part of his face.
Yeah, it's assumed as part of his face, exactly. But no, it was not. Glass was not not a major part of the
not at
plot
all.
at all. No.
Yeah, it sounds boring, to be honest. It really does.
I mean, it was cute. It was a stupid comedy.
Sounds dull.
Yeah, that's all it is.
We're going to take a break, come back with our tip, tool, and number of the week. But first, a word from Squarespace.com, the best hosting in the world, tied to a remarkable content management system that is not only gorgeous, but very, very effective, powerful. Squarespace has an award-winning design team. They're always working on new templates, new features They just added a new calendar feature called the Events Collection. You could share scheduled updates. It'd be great for us. We got to start using that. Or you could use it for store sales, band tour dates, that kind of thing. The template momentum is absolutely stunning. It's a full bleed template. This one is one of their newer templates. You know, the best way to do this, go to squarespace.com, click that Get Started button. You don't need to give them a credit card or anything, just an email address, a password, and the name of your site. And you can start designing right now, like within minutes. Set up a site. Play with the templates. Drag and drop. Even import all your content from your existing website, preserving all the SEO, all the images, all the links, even all the comments. And see what your site would look like on a Squarespace server. Then tell all your friends and try to bring the server down. You won't be able to. You won't be able to. One of the nice things about Squarespace is all of their designs are mobile ready. So you don't have a kind of a junky looking mobile site like I do. I got to move to Squarespace. I say this every time. You make one of their designs and it looks great on a 27-inch monitor, on an iPad, on an iPhone. It's just gorgeous. They call it mobile responsive design. It's the latest, greatest stuff. You don't have to be a designer or a developer to use Squarespace, but if you are, they have tools for you, including an amazing developer platform. You can import and export from all your existing social media, automatically link it up. Choose contributors, assign them permissions too. You have administrator, billing, content editor, reporting, comment moderator, trusted commenter, store manager, all of that stuff. So you can really great statistics. I can go on and on. I want you to try it free for 2 weeks. Just kind of run around, mess with it, do anything you feel like. Then if you decide you want a Squarespace site, take a look at the pricing. You're going to be blown away. The basic plan is $8 a month, but I think the most popular is the $16 a month unlimited plan. That's when you pay for a year. It's $20 if you just want to go month to month, and you can always do that. You're not locked in. For $16 a month, you get unlimited pages, unlimited galleries, unlimited blogs, unlimited bandwidth. You'll never get a bandwidth bill, even if you become the most popular site on the internet. Unlimited storage, unlimited contributors. When you buy a year plan, they also hook up the custom domain for free. If you decide you want to do e-commerce, add another $8 a month, $24 a month, and you have fully integrated e-commerce, mobile responsive. You get a mobile store, unlimited physical or digital products, inventory tracking. They'll do tax calculations, shipping calculations, coupon controls. I can go on and on. I mean, this is really great. Please just go to squarespace.com and click Get Started. And if you only need a site for 2 weeks, that's it. You're done. But if you decide you want to stick around, use our offer code because we'll get you 10% off your first purchase. That's why the full year is the best deal. I think they even have packages longer than that. TWIG6 is our offer code. TWIG and the number 6 for the 6th month, June, which is the month we are in right now. TWIG and the number 6, squarespace.com, the best place to host your next website. Gina Trapani has our tip of the week.
Well, I just revised my tip, because Enzo here in the chat room just let me know something that Jeff is going to be very happy about. It looks like Google just released a new app for Android for Google Cloud Print.
They're doing just what you said they were going to do.
Yeah,
more stuff.
This is more.
Actually,
Google Clouds.
There was a third-party Cloud Print. I have it on here. You can show it. I've already installed it. It wasted no time.
You've already installed this?
Yeah.
From...
Yeah.
Okay,
wow.
it just got released in the past hour, so this means you can print from any compatible Android device to any Google Cloud Print connected computer, share a picture or document from apps like Gallery directly to Cloud Print, and you can track the status of your print job. So I haven't had a chance to install this yet. I actually don't have a Cloud Print printer set up yet, although Jeff has really sold me on it.
I use my Mac at home, which pretty much now is nothing but a Cloud Print server, and print through it over Wi-Fi to my printer here.
Well, I can print. I'm going to print an image right now to my Epson Workforce Pro at home, which is a Cloud Print printer on my network. And you have all the, the print dialog is all here. I'm going to print one copy, and I'm going to say go. And now this is sending it to my printer at home. I also have a Cloud Print printer here at the office I could send it to. It also shows you all the print jobs you've done. These two are queued. This is queued. These are printed already. I mean, this is great. This is
Magic.
Really, yeah. I mean, I'm printing from an Android phone, but from a Pixel or a Chromebook, also a great choice. I do it from all my devices. It's really nice to be able to cloud print. And
What would be great in the future is if you're visiting an office or something, on the whiteboard it has the Wi-Fi password. It should then have the cloud print printer.
well, if you have this app, though, it just tells you what your printers are. It's all set up.
You know what I'm saying? That when you want to print at a hotel or someone.
Oh, I see what you're saying. They should give you that. Yeah.
Just give you an ID.
That's a great idea. I just sent my mom a printer because she needs a new photo printer, and I made sure it was cloud print capable because I'm going to set it up so that I can print stuff for her. So
You're going to scare her to death.
But think about it. If I want to send her a recipe, I could email it to her, but it would be a lot easier if I just say, "Oh, I'm going to print it out for you." And in Rhode Island, it's coming out. Done.
I should set up a photo printer at my mom's so I can send her pictures of the baby. Yeah.
Exactly.
Except for the whole part where you're putting ink on paper, which is kind of ancient technology. I just don't print that much. That's why I've never gone through the trouble of setting up cloud print because I print so infrequently. But something like that, like sending my mom pictures of the baby, like that would be. Or just messages. My mom just doesn't like to check her email. That's a really good. The only problem is you have to have a computer kind of connected to a printer, right?
No, you don't.
You get a printer with cloud
printer.
Yep.
You could buy a cloud printer.
So I only buy Wi-Fi printers now. You're crazy to buy a printer that has to be connected. Just get it. Every printer now has Wi-Fi.
Refuse to ever buy another HP. Refuse. I've never been able to set them up. Epson.
Love them. The Artisan is Wi-Fi. The Workforce, if you need a bigger, multifunction. I have a Workforce at home and here. And it's
Next
great.
printer I buy, I'm definitely.
And it's on the Wi-Fi network. It's not connected to anything. There's no wires. Doesn't have to have a computer on or anything. It just prints to it. So it's like a fax machine.
Yeah, that's great.
It's really handy. I'll tell you what. One of the few things I still print is airplane passes, air boarding passes.
Oh yeah.
Well, I don't need to do that anymore. I'm now using my phone for that.
I don't trust it.
Leo.
I don't trust it.
I agree. I was that way for a while.
Print a second. What's the harm of having a boarded? I might use my phone, but what's the harm of having a printed boarding pass right there?
I have arrived. I have discovered recently I'm on TSA Pre. It is the greatest thing. It is wonderful.
It's just a blow through that whole line and everybody glares at you. Is that how that works?
They already know about me. Thank you, NSA, for the service here. They say, who says this is a bad thing?
Right.
They can guarantee that I'm okay because of all that NSA data. And I blow right through. All I do is take change and out. That's it.
Oh, so they don't scan you or anything. You just have to take metal.
You walk through the metal detector, the old-fashioned one. You put everything on the belt. Don't take out the liquids. Don't take out the computer. Don't do any of that. Boom, you're through.
And you don't have to do this. You don't have to do the body scan.
No, you just do the metal detector.
That's great.
That's really great.
Wonderful.
Jeff, your number
gotten to is that I'm happy about a regression to life before, but
your number of the week.
Well, I have so many. Google made a 52 terapixel time-lapse map of the world covering 29 years.
Wow.
A Google-funded study says that if we moved a lot of cloud apps, things up to the cloud, we'd save enough energy to power LA for a year. But, oh, my God, what a waste of energy that is. The Internship made $18.1 million in the first weekend, which was fourth place, but about what was expected. It's the 50th birthday of ASCII. And finally, the one Leo wanted me to use on this one is that Google interns earn between $5,800 and $6,700 a month.
That doesn't sound like an internship to me. It sounds like a job.
No. Yeah.
So here's one of the time lapses. This is Dubai. Watch this. Dubai really went through quite a growth spurt. It was just a lot of sand. There's the Columbia Glacier. See it melting? Bye-bye, glacier.
This is a powerful statement about how we change the earth.
Look at that. Here's the Amazon. Yeah, I think this is great. And it's all on the web. Obviously, you're not going to download all 52 whatever.
52 terapixels.
52 terapixels.
But you can Las Vegas. Let's look at Las Vegas.
Oh yeah, that's fun.
So just that little desert area there, and then building it right up.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. I thought Dubai was really interesting. Let's go. This is the beginning.
29 years.
Yeah, and it sprouts those two views. Yeah.
Which, by the way, they never finished. They ran out of money. That's cool. That's time.com/timelapse. And You did the number, so we're good?
Yeah, we're done. Yep, we're done.
I actually was going to do cloud print. That's why I had it on my machine. No, don't worry.
sorry,
I got
Leo.
plenty of tools. This is actually one for you, Gina. If you do get that HTC One, Qualcomm, which makes the processor in it, the Snapdragon, makes a product that is free, and I installed it on my HTC One called the Snapdragon Battery Guru. Now, there's some debate over whether battery-saving apps are any good or they're just another like kind of task killer thing. This does definitely help. It watches what you do for a few days and then puts to sleep apps that you don't really need or gives you the choice of how each app should respond. So you can say, Google Play Music, I don't want it to update at all ever, or I do want it when I need it. That's the most intelligent choice. That's the automated choice that it watched you for. But or all the time, anytime it wants to get on it, turn it on. And most of these apps, you don't need Google Play Music to update all the time in the background. Come on.
Oh.
So I have it refresh when used, and that can save considerable battery life. This is free, and it's from Qualcomm. But you do need to have an Android phone with a Snapdragon in it, so it won't work on a Galaxy S4, I don't think. Actually, mine might work on the US Galaxy S4. Actually, probably would. You'll know. You'll know which one you need.
Yeah. It says incompatible with all my devices, but if I get the one,
But when you get the one,
it'll be listed.
it'll
there.
work.
Yeah.
It's only
Nice.
on. Yeah. Thank you, Gina Trapani. Smarterware.org, thinkup.com, todotext.com.
That's me.
That's her.
Thank you.
Android,
Favorite
all
out of
about
these.
it. All about it. Every Tuesday, right here. Thanks for
All about
being
Android. Yep. Tuesday nights.
Tuesday nights. What is that? 5?
5. Yep.
5 p.m. Pacific, 8
5
p.m.
p.m.
Eastern
Pacific.
time. If you're into Android, that's really a good show to watch. And I apologize for all this Android talk. So we'll save it for the other show.
No, it's great. I get both perspectives. It helps me prep. It's good.
The more I use the iPhone, the more I like Android. Mr. Jeff Jarvis blogs at buzzmachine.com. He's also a professor
And if
of
I may
journalism.
plug, these
Public
days,
parts.
publicness is more relevant than ever, folks.
Yeah. Do you talk about that issue of, being
Government transparency.
Yeah.
And government being the threat to us.
You will like our guest on today's triangulation.
Oh,
Actually,
who's that?
I got to find his name. I don't have it right to hand. He did a really remarkable TED Talk. Jason Silva of Brain Games. You know his name?
No.
He's all about radical openness. In fact, he's got I'll show this Vimeo because it's so good. He says, really, and many agree, people like Ray Kurzweil, that evolution now, is Richard Dawkins, is not happening in our bodies. It's happening in our ideas. That the progress, the human progress now comes from radical openness with ideas. The more we share, the more we put our ideas out there and don't hold on to them, the faster the human race can progress. And,
See, the NSA is just doing us a favor.
That's right.
That's all.
That's all. Radical openness, our topic. Jason Silva joins us in just a few minutes on Triangulation. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We do This Week in Google, 1 p.m. Pacific time. That's 4 p.m. Eastern time. That's 2100 UTC on twit.tv. Please watch. We'd love it if you do, but if you can't watch live, you can always get on-demand versions after the fact at twit.tv/twig or wherever finer podcasts are aggregated, like Dogcatcher on Android. Is there a podcast app for the Pixel? You can just listen on the web, I guess, if you're in a Pixel.
Yeah.
Yeah. There might be a Chrome plugin. I'll have to look. Never thought about that. Of course, iTunes. Hey, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.